Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to take a look at S3 storage. Just a word of warning, you will need money for this. So S3 storage, we're going to be working with Linode. That costs $5, no tax. You can grab a link in the description for a credit. So it's like, I think it's $20 or something like that. If you sign up with it, we are going to first take a quick look at how to connect to it through Linkpad. I'm going to show you what you will need, and then we're going to bring it into our application and see how we can use it there. Okay, so first of all, what you are gonna need to do, you're gonna need to sign up to Linode or other storage provider, and work with it accordingly. But this tutorial is for Linode specifically. You want to go into the object storage section. You want to create a bucket. You will need to pass like a payment or whatever before you get into here. But once you're here, take note of the URL of the bucket and the name of the bucket. You then want to go into the access keys and grab yourself a couple of access keys. So this is primarily the information that you will need. Let's go ahead into Linkpad, and here, if you don't have Linkpad or you don't want to use Linkpad, you can open up a regular console application and use it there. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go to NuGet, and we're going to look for AWS, so Amazon Web Services SDK, and you can put S3 after it, and that should give you a Amazon simple storage service. It should have an AWS SDK.S3. Okay, so go ahead and install that. Once that is in your project, what you want to do is we want a new Amazon S3. I can't remember, Amazon S3 client. There it is. Let's just get the namespace. It's just gonna make the IntelliSense for me a little bit easier. And once we got that, there are also going to be some options, or configuration, Amazon S3 config, and there it is, right? So specifically, what we want to do with the configuration is Amazon S3 client usually is built to point at Amazon's S3 storage. We want to kind of say point at Linode, right? So that's the whole point about S3 storage, is it's like S3 compatible. So you can use this one client to point at any S3 bucket, right? So service URL, we want to point it to this one. So if we can grab it, or it will do that. Let's go ahead, grab the URL here. Obviously you get access denied, but that's not a big problem. So here is my URL of the test bucket, and you can see that it's prefixed here with the name of the test bucket. What you want to do is you would just want to remove that, right? And that will now point to the actual service URL. Okay, so the previous one was kind of like my bucket, and my bucket lives at uCentral1. So go ahead and point to that. Once you got that, I've already gone ahead, grabbed the access key. I put them into my extensions in Linkpad, so you won't be able to see them. But one of the constructors, if we can take a look at it, the thing that we specifically want is a constructor that looks like this. So we want an access key, a secret access key, and the client config, okay? So going to my extensions where I've put the keys, I have my Linode access key. I then have my extensions Linode secret key, and then we can go ahead and provide the options. Okay, so at this point we can go ahead and actually use the client to put stuff into the bucket. So let's go ahead and make this async task so we can use tasks. And in the client, we want to go ahead and just put object async. Okay, so we can wait on this, and inside of here goes a request. This request is a new put object request, and a couple of parameters. I think it will be actually easier to put constructed like this. But basically, you have to provide a couple of things to it. A few notable ones are bucket names. So this would be AW test bucket for me. Furthermore, is a couple of like files and stuff like that. What do you actually want to put? So let's do chronologically. So file path. You can either supply a file path or a file stream. In our application, we're going to be doing file stream. Here, we're going to be doing a file path, right? So I'm just going to go ahead, grab this file path. I'm going to put it in here, and I'm going to grab some kind of sample image. So for example, this ava.jpg, right? and which is of my face, obviously, and we're just gonna do something like profile underscore 111, so it's super apparent that this is what's going to be written. So if we look inside of the bucket, we're gonna see that it's not there yet. Okay, so let me close this folder. I'm gonna come back here, and so here's the file path, right? Key, this is what's going to be written. You can give it an extension. You can also, it's quite important that I've noticed when working with Aws S3 to provide a content type. So in our case, we will do something like image-jpeg. File path, we want to put the file path for where it's going to read it from. And another important bit is canned ACL. So S3 canned ACL, you want to say public. So sometimes if you have a private or like protected or something like that, it's basically if you hit the URL to try to get the file, you're not going to be able to access it unless you have some kind of key. So if you want secured files and stuff like that, or give it only to some certain members, before they go and read the file, you give them a key which lasts for a certain amount of time, which they can use to access that file, right? We're not going to be doing any of that. We're doing really simple, just give us the file sort of thing. Okay, so with this said, let's go ahead and run this. Obvious mistakes in link pad, just forget some semicolons, and that's it, right? So on here, we can then give this a refresh, and there is the file. So if you remember previously how my URL looked, so if I put this here and AW test bucket, and instead of GitHub images, I will put the actual key that we specified to it. So there it is, right? No longer got the beard, awesome cactus, whatever, right? Just understand bucket name, S3 storage server, and the key is the name of your file. And that's it, right? Now we have to take this client, we gotta go put it into our application. If you're here just to figure out how to integrate with the S3 storage, just remember you need two keys, right? Both of them. You can get them from the access keys. URL, the service URL, there it is right there. The name of the bucket, that is when, because it's one service URL, you can have multiple buckets. Make sure you specify the bucket name. Important content type, just what file, the name of the file, so it doesn't really matter if you have a file that is named A, as long as you specify the key, that's what it's going to be when it gets there. And then the permissions, right? So access level, what do you want to set? Is it private and stuff like that? We're not going to be exploring those options, so feel free to explore those in your own time, right? But let's leave this here and let's go ahead into our own application and let's explore what we need. I'm going to close this and let's get started. The first thing that we want to do is the same thing that we did with our link pad script, is we want to add the Aws Sdks3 package to our API. So let's go ahead and install that. And while that is installing, let's go ahead into services. We are going to add a directory for storage, and in here we're going to create a interface S3 client. Okay, that's going to be the interface. Hopefully you understand what is going to be happening here. If not, hold on tight. The thing that we're going to return is a URL, so how we save the images and videos to then retrieve them from our file endpoint. We want to do the same, but just return the URL for where they're going to be in the S3 bucket. The two primary operations that we're doing is actually saving profile images and video submissions. So let's go ahead and say save profile image. The thing that we're going to need is a string file name and a stream of file stream, right? Same thing with the save submission video, and that's pretty much it. Let's create a derived type S3 client. Let's just prefix it with Linode in case you will bring in something else and you just want to implement it differently, right? So in the constructor, what we're going to do is we are going to inject an iOptions monitor for some settings, specifically public class Linode S3 settings. So if we do have these settings, or you can call them S3 settings, maybe probably not Linode, But let's have our access key, secret key. The other thing that we need is service URL, bucket name, and if you want, you can add a little prefix. I'm going to add a little prefix or root. So the root is basically just gonna make sure that I already closed it, but it's just going to prefix something on the key, so it's just gonna put it in a folder. Okay, and that's it. So here are the settings. This is the thing that we want to inject. Let's go ahead and get the options monitor in here. We're gonna say settings equals monitor current value. Yeah. Create a field. Read only. And there we go. Right. So we got the settings. Let's go ahead and take this thing right here. So how we construct the client. I'm gonna create a private Amazon S3 client. There it is. And I'm just gonna say client. This is constantly going to give me a brand new client. So let's go ahead and put this in here. I'm just going to remove this from the settings. I am going to the settings. Yeah. It's a little bit. Let's grab these things, put them in the options. Don't remove the options. If I can. Okay, there we go. So in the settings, I will grab the access key. And then we'll grab the secret key as well. And then we're just going to grab the service URL. Okay, so these are the three things. Every time we create a client, we want to put it in a using statement and we want to use it. Okay, so we can make this. No, come on, we cannot make it. Don't listen to me. Right. So in the previous episode, I explained to you how to add user secrets to your application. All we want to do is replicate the what's it called? Linode S3 client settings in here, right? So, S3 settings. What am I saying? S3 settings. Grab each one of these properties, put them in here, right? Secret. There's going to be a couple of them, 5 to be specific. Come back here, secret key, put it here. Service URL, bucket, and root. Okay, these are going to be secret. Now you're going to go right click, tools, and open project user secrets. I'm going to do that now, and I'm going to fill it out with my information. You really don't need to know it, but there it is. So I'm going to cut the video here, and then we're going to continue. Okay, so now I've got that in my secret file. Let's go ahead and close, and when I register these settings, they will be good to go. I'm going to go ahead and move these out into their own file so they don't dangle about. And then we can go ahead and keep building this up, okay? So now we can go and grab this thing here. So let's go ahead, take this. We'll put it in the submissions videos. We kind of know that it's going to be a certain like video .mp4. So we can go ahead and do that, right? So let's grab a bunch of imports. We want to say using what kind of resource var client equals client. So every time we create a new client, let's go ahead and use it. And let's put this guy in here. And there we go. So put object and make this asynchronous. We can put this on one line as well. It's not really that bad. And instead of file stream, what you want to do is you want to give it an input stream. Okay. The bucket name, again, this should be coming from the settings. So settings bucket. And the way that I'm going to use the root is I'm going to say settings root / file name. Okay. And that's it. Now for the URL at the end, we can go ahead and return this. So what is it going to be? It's going to be settings, service URL / settings bucket and / well, don't want to putting, I'm just noticed I'm putting these $signs. I spent too much time in the JavaScript world. Settings root, so that's going to be the root, and then the file name, right? That's pretty much it. You can see we're reusing a lot of stuff, so let's go ahead and just make a private string object URL string file name, and then we can just equate it to this thing here. All right, let's grab it here, put it down here, and then return object URL and put the file name in here. And that's pretty much it. We can then also do the same thing, but for the save profile image. And the only thing that will change, I mean, you can change this accordingly, but I think this should be all right. All right, so a little bit of repetition, not a lot. I think an individual endpoint for like if there is going to be a third endpoint, I think you will need to think a little bit more about abstracting it. But 2 repetitions, that's nothing. So we've got this client. Let's go ahead and utilize it now. So the first place that we really want to go is the startup and register it, right? S3 client and Linode S3 client. We then want to make sure that we configure the settings. So S3 settings, go ahead and put it here. This service can now be used across our application wherever we grab it. Let's go ahead and first sort out in our controller. If we take a look at the user controller, where we're using the iFile manager, or all we're really doing in the iFile manager is what are we doing with it? We are getting the save path and getting the file URL. I'm not really liking the file manager, to be honest, all that much. So let's go ahead and take this opportunity as well to try and rewrite some of this logic. So for the storage provider, what other thing can happen is if we go back into services and storage, because we've kind of understood, let me grab this and move this out. We've kind of understood here that these are the only real 2 operations that we want to do with our bucket, right? So that is what we're going to be writing into our bucket. There is going to be no video encoding, nothing like that. That is a storage client, right? And these are primary operations that we're going to be doing. Now we want a service that will, based on what we have registered. So if we go to our background services and our video editing, where we have the register services, where we have the iFile manager, the file manager should really be a client that is either the S3 client is injected or either the local manager client is injected, and then we use it, right? So let's do this. In here, we'll create a class and we'll say image processing service, or let's just say image processing. We'll do something like this. In the constructor, we'll grab something that we want to inject. Where do we save it? And then this will kind of give us a funnel of how we want to work with this, okay? So for the image processing in the user controller, what we're going to get is, let's say, public task. Actually, do we even want to do in the image? Let's delete that. That was a stupid idea. Let's go back to the user controller, and how we have this iFile manager. We're going to try to hide it behind an interface of an iFile provider. if that makes sense, but I'm hoping it's going to make sense in a little bit. Let's create an interface here, iFile provider, and there are going to be 2 file providers. So local, which is kind of what we have in our file manager local, but I am trying to basically rewrite that, okay? And S3 file provider, and let's say local file provider, okay? In the constructor here, we're gonna inject our S3 client. Let's go ahead and put the client in here, okay? And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to try to save an image, okay? So public task string, so it's going to return a string, and save profile image async, okay? And we're just going to supply a stream in here, and that's all it's going to do, right? So stream, file stream. Let's go ahead and implement this for both of them. Here we kind of know what's going to happen here. So in user controller, let's just make sure that we generate profile name. Let's grab this file name here. In the S3 file provider, we're going to put the file name here, and then we can just return. Oh, where was it? Client, save profile image, file name, and then pass the stream. Okay. With the other one, it's kind of the same story, although here we are going to be doing something along the lines of this. using statement right here. Okay, so we got the file name of where we want to save. We want to create a stream of where we're going to be creating a file. Let's go ahead, move this out. So file manager, get save path. And in the interests of time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the file manager local. And for the get save path, where we have here, we're just going to, again, working directory, it is just pointing to env web root path. Let's go ahead and copy this. We will just put it in there and kind of slowly try to transfer stuff across. And then the stuff that's not going to be used, we will be able to just get rid of it. So there we have the environment, file manager local. Let's grab the maybe about this much of that bit. So let's save our save path. We'll put it here. Okay, file name, make sure web root path. That's where we're going, and save profile image, a stream. That is kind of being used here, so save stream. This stream should really be named file stream. Okay, let's rename it in there. Yep. Let's go back to name the stream. Yeah, okay. Await here, so save path. That is what we're going to be putting here. Let's not forget to close this off. And now within this method, this is where it's going to be responsible for crafting the URL as well. So this bit right here in the settings, where do we have the settings, file storage monitor, file settings. Let's go ahead and actually put this in here as well. Okay, let's get this in there. File settings monitor, give it a comma. Yeah, that's fine. And we'll do underscore settings equals current value, create a field, make it read only. And now again, let's go back to the file local manager where we have this URL here. Let's grab it for the image. We're gonna say in here, we'll take file stream. We'll say write, if I can write to, or write async. If I can remember, is that how they work? Stream? Nope. Let's say copy to async stream, and we'll await. At the end, we will just want to return the URL, right? So whatever stream comes in, we return the URL at the end, all good. Now, iFile provider, this is the thing that we want to consume here. Let's go ahead and import this. None of this is going to be happening. Remember that we are generating the file name for both of them here, okay? And again, this could probably be a function somewhere else as well, but nevertheless, so we do the mutation, and then we save it. We wanted to save it to some kind of a stream, okay? The thing that is going to be happening now is in the file manager, we will be doing save iFile provider. Is this the wrong kind of file provider that I'm looking for? Microsoft extensions files providers. Definitely not the file provider that I was looking for. Give me my file provider, right? File manager, save profile image async, and now we want to pass the stream. So here we have the stream. Let's go and copy the stream, and we'll just put it in here, right? No big, easy. Of course, we will need some kind of intermediate thing. So let's go ahead and say a using, and it will be using for the same amount. So we'll say stream equals new memory stream, and there we go, right? I think this has an await. Now, this right here, this process, this image processing, this can be done a little bit more asynchronously. So let's save our process image, and this is going to be var save image. These are the two tasks. We can then go await task when all, process image, save image, and then by the end of it, we will just say save image and give me the result. Okay, so these two tasks, like it will process the image a little bit, and then we'll upload it a little bit. At least that's how I see it. And at the end, we're just gonna go ahead and save it, right? Another thing that we can do, we're not gonna be deleting anything, hard deleting just for now, but let's go ahead and delete this temporary thing. We're gonna go into the file controller and we're gonna delete it from here. This was just, I don't even know what that was or why we needed that. Didn't make sense whatsoever. FFmpeg path, This is something that I think should really be coming from the where can we see iFile? I just took out the settings somewhere, didn't I? File settings, where are they? Where are the file settings? Boy, we have the settings bit here. Okay. Let's move them into storage here so it's a little bit easier to see. And we are just going to provide an ffmpeg path here. Okay, let's just say ffmpeg. Let's just say path. That'll be good. Let's fix the namespace here. And going back to the iFile, I know we have a lot here, but just bear with it. Let's delete that on the video editing background service. That is where that's going to break. What we want to do is an options monitor. Let's go ahead and get ourselves a file settings. File settings monitor. Okay, there it is. So file settings monitor. Let's go ahead and grab it here. So current value, ffmpeg path, and there we go. So that is, again, this is something that we will need to provide. When we're on Linux, we can just use it as a regular command. Now, I'm going to close everything because it is getting a little bit like, oh, where are we? What do we want to look at? Resetting, what we want to do, let's go into our file controller and we're just going to quickly take a look at this from a different perspective. Okay, here we have temporary file storage. Now, temporary file storage is going to be the same regardless if we are saving stuff to an S3 bucket or local storage. So I'm going to say, let's make it a separate service for this and we will manage it separately as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a temporary file storage service. And in here, we'll take the file manager local. The temporary bit, we can delete it because that's grayed out. We no longer need to look at it. The ffmpeg path, again, let's take it out. We no longer need to look at it. And let's take a look at where we have saved temporary file. Let's go ahead, cut this. We're going to put it here. And let's just make sure we bring everything in here. For the file name, how we basically save it here, what I'm going to do is leave it as is. And from the file manager, we're going to, again, grab this prefix pointer. I think it's a little bit like, not really needed. Let's just put it in here. Spread this out a little bit and it should be apparent what this is. So I don't think we need the temp prefix. Just do it like that. Next thing that was here is this temporary save path. So back to the file manager, temporary save path. Let's go ahead, cut this, put it here. And the working directory, again, the working directory, we are just going to grab the iWeb host environment. And do we really want to grab it from the iWeb host environment, or do we want to provide it as a file path in the file settings? Let's do that. So let's provide a temporary working directory, right? So this is the working directory for temporary files. In the temporary file storage, losing my voice slowly. Let's inject our options monitor. We're going to put the file settings in here. So options monitor, hopefully that's going to be the only one. We're going to say settings equals options monitor current value. And let's create the field, read only, and there it is. So from the settings, what we're going to do is we're going to grab temporary working directory, and we will be able to recreate the temporary save path every single time. Okay. So file manager local, temporary save path. I think I've already deleted this. Get save path. That is a little bit weird and looks exactly the same as the temporary save path. So let's just rename this to get save path and try to remember everywhere where we used temporary save path. We're now going to use get save path because working directory, we can then actually rename it to working directory. Okay, I think that's just going to be a little bit more succinct all over. Now, let's take a look at what we have here. Temporary file exists. I think this is still something that we can use and delete as well. Let's go ahead, grab these two. We'll put them here and let's utilize this thing here. Okay, So let's try to make this private. Let's see where else we will need to use this and act accordingly. Now, the first place where we really want to utilize this service is we want to try to use the temporary file storage in our file controller. So let's go ahead, put this here, and we'll call this temporary file storage. And let's make this, whoa, let's make this global, right? Hopefully, did that put it as an interface? Yeah, it didn't inherit from the interface, so that's fine. So what the hell? Did it not rename it? What happened? Did I miss something? Right? So for the first one, temporary file exists, delete temporary file, awesome. Save temporary file, looking good. Get save path, looking good. Let's take a look at the save path. It is private. Let's make it public. That is the time when we need to read it. So we are kind of making a distinction where we're not basically mixing up configuration and retrieval of URLs. So like it was just a big old mess, really. Let's be honest. Let's go ahead and it looks like really almost nothing is left here. So I think file manager local and file manager, let's go ahead and delete these two services. And this should look a little bit scary. That's okay. In the submissions controller, let's go ahead and put a temporary file storage. So temporary file storage, it's temporary file storage exists. Cool. That's taken care of. Register service. I'm going to cut this and I'm going to put it into storage. And here what we want to do is I will say iFile provider. If we have local, let's say what did we say in the iFile provider? We still had two. Let's go ahead and take them out. The both that we have in the file. We'll say local file provider. We'll copy this. Do these need to be singletons? I don't think so. Let's add scoped for both of them. This is going to be an S3 file provider. Okay, so there we go. Based on what we have in the settings, we're going to configure a different client. Okay, so if you've been watching these series for a long time, hopefully you know what this is. Otherwise, shame on you. And if you've just came in and you're like, what the hell is going on? And you're like screaming and calm down. Start from the beginning. Get in line, man. All right, cool. The last couple of errors will be in the video in the background editing service, right? So in here, what do we want to do? We want to grab the temporary file storage and we want to grab a file provider. Okay, let's go ahead and get our file provider in here, file manager. That is going. All right, we no longer have that existing. And temporary file storage, let's just make sure we name it appropriately as well. From our temporary file storage, we want to get save path. We then want to generate some new temporary paths where we're going to be storing, what's it called, the stuff after conversion. So that's fine. Right, we have new temporary paths again. So, and then we have temporary file exists. If they don't exist, we failed to generate something. We then want to save them to disk. So this is where our file provider really comes in. So in our file provider, with our file provider, we want to go ahead and not get file URL, but actually save the file. And this is going to be save video and save thumbnail. So new endpoints that we have to cover. So save, let's say video, or save submission video async. And then we have save video thumb. So let's just say some thumbnail. What are we, lazy or something? Let's say save video async, save video, save thumbnail async. I think that is okay. Now going to the local provider, if we go ahead and implement these, it's going to look really similar to how we do it here. So let's grab the common things and we'll just extract them somewhere here. So private task, this is going to be async, save file, and stream file, or let's just call it stream, and we'll say string file name, right? Those are the things that we need to pass in here. So save path, the rest is coming from the working directory. So file stream, we copy it, actually let's call it file stream. File stream. All right, just like that. So let's say await, save file, file stream, and file name. The real things that are going to change are these three. So let's go ahead, put this here. For video, we generate converted file name, put it there, await, make this async. This is going to be a video URL, and the other one is just going to be this thing. This is going to be generate thumbnail file, make this async, and there is our local file provider. Let's go to the S3 file provider. Let's put this here, and in here I am slightly worried that this has just become a bit of a proxy. So what I think we will do is we are going to transfer this a little bit, right? So the IS3 client, we are going to delete the IS3 client and the S3 Linode S3 client. Although was that a good idea? Because we could change the clients and then we just need to change the implementation. Let's bring that back. We're bringing it back. Right. I think what we would rather do is then we just say IS3 client on here on the client. Let's say, what is that thing? It's made its way into my C# files. Let's say save file and then string, let's say file name, and the only real thing that changes is the MIME, right? So we put this here, we come back here, we save file, we put, yeah, let's remove that, let's just mess this thing up a little bit, right? Make it unreadable. Put this thing here, the rest can stay. Let's remove this thing, make it awaitable, right? And there we go. So file name, MIME, let's go ahead and make sure that we put the MIME here. You can call it content type if you want. I'm not too bothered. So let's go ahead and save file here. We're gonna say image/JPEG. Right, let's go ahead, copy this bit a couple of times. This is going to be video MP4, and this is the other thing is just going to be the same really, although generates thumbnail. This is going to be generate converted file name. Okay, now coming back to the video editing background service. Let's go ahead and quickly fix up the cleanup of temporary files. So if we go to grab our temporary or the underscored one, temporary file storage, let's put this here. All right, so we delete a bunch of temporary files. The converted file names right here. What I'm tempted to do is maybe generate them as, although no, that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. Let's keep them as is. The real things that we want to do to generate the video and thumbnail links are basically the using of the file provider. So how do we use the file provider? Well, we have a save video async. What do we need? We only need the stream. Okay, so let's go ahead, take a look at the output converted path and output thumbnail path, and what we want to do with these is we want to open streams for this and put these streams into there. So using var, let's start with video path, that is more important. So file, open, and here we're gonna pass in, what do we, output converted path, so file mode open, file mode read. We then want to put the video path in here. await on this. And that's really the thing that's going to get put in there. So we can go ahead, take maybe this much, assign it here. We put this up here, right? And there it is. Let's go ahead and let's actually, what am I thinking? I think this is a long episode effect. I'll call it that. Video path, yeah, and this is going to be thumbnail stream. Output thumbnail path. We are going to copy this. I'm gonna put it here. Save thumbnail async, thumbnail stream, video stream. We could put them into separate tasks and wait on them, and really that might actually be like a better option. I want to do this in a asynchronous manner if possible. So let's say video link equals this, and then thumb link equals this bit. Apologies again if this is a long episode and you're like, what the hell, man, this is like every episode's a long episode, get used to it. All right, and I think that's it, right? Let's go ahead and test it. The front end should work as it did. Right, what do we want to test? Let's go to register services first, and we'll say add file services instead. Okay, for when we add this bit here, let's go ahead into our startup where we have been adding this bit with the S3 client and stuff like that. Go into register services. We are going to put it here, and let's say services, add scope. So we're going to add this service here, and the configuration with the get section where we get the S3 settings, we're going to get it from there. Okay. Another thing not to forget is the thing that we need for both of these to function is the temporary file storage. Okay. The S3 settings, really we need to only configure them when they're here. So let's go ahead and do that. And really, I don't think we're missing anything else. The application, I think let's restart it for good measure. The next application, I think, is running. So let's go ahead, open it up. While that's loading, let me close my linkpad script here. Come back here. What is wrong? Something's broken. Some services are unable to get error validating service descriptor. Temporary file store, which is okay. So we can't consume that because it's scoped. What we want to do is add it as a singleton service. I don't really think that has a problem with being a singleton service. The file provider, let's quickly take a look at the file provider. What do we have in here? The S3 clients, that is really going to be constructing a new S3 client. So I think this one is safe to be a singleton as well. So add singleton. This is going to be a singleton as well. Okay, because those really are only consuming the options. Let's just double check the things. What are we doing with the settings? So the settings, you know, the settings, we love the settings. We're not going to do anything about them. Let's give this a refresh. Let's come down here. Hopefully no more service errors. Nope, there is. Cannot iFile provider. So we did change that to a singleton. That should no longer be a problem. Let's give this another run. Okay, still an error. So video tracking library iFile from singleton iHost. Oh, okay. So it will be this one as well. But actually, one thing we are forgetting is a couple things actually. So if we go into development where we had the file settings, let's go ahead and switch this up a little bit. Whoop, that actually started up. Thank you for letting me know. So where we had the file settings right here, FFmpeg path, that's the thing that we want, right? So where do we have this thing? And going into working directory, where do we want the working directory? I know we can have the environment path and whatnot, but the importance of having these paths is being able to set it outside of the application, actually. Okay, so nevertheless, we're still going to be utilizing the things that we have in our project. So let's go ahead and get the FFmpeg path. we will put this thing here, and we're just gonna say ffmpeg.exe. That's where it needs to be. And for the other bit, we're just gonna set it to the www root folder. Okay, we can do stuff like default path and stuff like that, but never mind. So that's that. I'm hoping the singleton services haven't been called yet, so let's go ahead and give this a refresh. And actually, again, my bad. Go ahead and use S3 file type. Do we? Okay, I'm not gonna bother with that just yet. Kind of trying to remember the things that we registered and not registered. So S3, yeah, that's the bit that we want to put in there. Let's just give this a refresh and start this again. What do we? There was some kind of error again. Okay, let's see what happens, right? There we go. So it started. Do we get an error? We don't get an error. Let's give it a refresh. And there we go. Right. So hopefully, let's do test. Password. Oh. Password. First. Oh, get out of here. First test run on the profile image. Let's put the cat. The humble cat. Okay. The completed tricks have vanished. Not a big problem. Not a big problem. All right. The important thing is the other stuff is working. So let's go ahead and test a submission, right? So we'll create a submission. What kind of file do we want? Let's see. I mean, it really doesn't matter, does it though? Let's grab this thing. Select trick. Let's do backwards roll. Don't think we've given the backwards roll any love. So hopefully, maybe it exploded. Failed to provide the, okay, that's the sign-in manager. Okay, and there we go. Awesome. Let's see, what is this? In this celebratory. Whack. Okay, maybe not too, okay, that was whack. Oh, whack. Anyway, the important part is that the URL is coming from the Linode object storage. If I'm gonna go look in my storage manager and stuff like in my console, I'm gonna see it, and that's pretty much it, right? So S3 storage implemented. Again, apologies for the long episode. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. If you did, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, share, show it to your grandma. She's gonna appreciate it. Maybe your grandpa. We love your grandpa too. He should watch quality content. If you have any questions, if your grandpa has any questions, leave them in the comments section. Ask them on the Discord server, whatnot. Make sure you tell them about my stream every Wednesday and Sunday, 6 o'clock London time. And as always, I really hope I see you in the next episode.